Good morning. Didn't think you were going to be here today.
Well, you know what? I am packing up as we speak, but I had such a good conversation with Deborah Burks, and by next week, it would be old information. So I figured, I was thinking about you, as a matter of fact, during that conversation. She testing. I was I didn't know what to expect. They called me on Wednesday and said, "Hey, can you sit on a panel with Dr. Burks?" And I said, "What am I getting into?" Because but anyway, it was a really interesting. So I went in with semi-low expectation, not knowing what to expect. I came away pretty impressed with her. Just pragmatic thinking, actually. Not when you get a political appointee, sometimes you don't know what you're getting.
Mr. Blackstone.
Hey, what's up, Whipple?
How are you, dude?
Good. How are you doing?
Everybody, happy Friday.
Likewise. Let's see, oh, there we go. It's better. Bryant Davis, top 35 or under 35.
Just a year under.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I got to give credit to all those other people on there too. So they're some pretty phenomenal people.
They really are. I read this is like, daggone, this community's in good hands.
I say that too. And I mean, I've got to give tremendous kudos to the Leadership Columbia program, because year in and year out, there are a lot of, and I can say us now, being a recent grad, but a lot of us that are a part of it. So yes, we do have some great hope moving forward in this city with some great leaders. So.
All right, I got 9:01 and the bells are ringing. Sorry, I haven't done a coffee with Carl on the back porch in a long time, and so I forgot about the birds and the bells and all that stuff. So bear with me, but it is move-in day at Clemson. We have a 30-minute window to unload everything in my house. So this will be a quick one, but I did got a chance to visit with Adam Vance yesterday and at the school. At the university, and wanted to brief y'all a little bit on what's going on, just because I thought it wouldn't be relevant next week. And so, so even though I am moving today, I figured we'd touch base just for a few minutes, just to say what's happening, and a couple great points this week. One, so I got this crazy call. We were hosting yesterday a housing economic update with Joey Von Nessen with BIA and the realtors, and that's one of my favorite things of the year, just because I love numbers. And anyway, so I got a call on Wednesday saying, "Hey, would you sit on a panel with Dr. Deborah Burks, who runs the COVID response for the White House?" I was like, "Oh, crud. I'd rather hear about economic numbers." But anyway, I went over to the university yesterday, and there were about 10 of us around a table talking about the impact of COVID on this community. And props to President Kaslan. I've mentioned this a couple of times with y'all, but Kaslan has come with this at a very deliberate way of mapping out COVID in Columbia. And the impact is significant on our community for a couple of reasons. One, we're a downtown capital city with the university intertwined, and with students living everywhere, both in the city and the county and across the river. And anyway, it's a significant piece of fabric of Columbia. So you can't split the university off from the city of Columbia. And so the conversation was great. And what I learned was, one, USC is doing a great job. And this came from Dr. Burks, that, and anecdotally, I also, yesterday afternoon, I had a call with all the SEC chambers. So the chambers of commerce and every SEC city got together for a call just to talk about what's happening around the conference, but more importantly in their communities. And, you know, hearing them, a lot of those schools, they're not providing any testing. They don't have a dashboard. They have there's no process for disclosure from the university to the community on what's happening. So I think we're way ahead of what other schools are doing, with at least in the SEC conference. But back to Dr. Burks. So she's the guru, right? She's was appointed by the vice president to lead the response. And her takeaway was a couple things. She is the worst, you know, outbreaks are going to happen in any school. The best thing you can do is test. And the more often you can do it, the better. Secondly, do not continue to encourage to use that nasal swab, the deep nasal swab. She goes, because all that is doing is deterring people from getting tested again. There are accurate testing for saliva. There's some, I don't really understand the science all, but there's another one that doesn't go quite as far up, but just in the inner part of the nose, and because that works as well. But we need people to continue. It's not a one and done. It needs to be testing all the time. And as much as we can encourage people to do it, the better. And if you feel like you're scratching the bottom of your brainstem through your nose with a swab, nobody wants to do that again and again and again, right? So she was very, very, and USC in the School of Pharmacy came up with a protocol on the saliva testing, one of the first ones. And so others are, you know, Luke Kennedy was there yesterday presenting as well. And Luke said, keep out, we got some exciting news coming on saliva testing. So we're looking forward to hearing more in the coming days from Luke. But really, it was encouraging to hear what Dr. Burks was saying about, for all the schools in the country, the worst thing you can do when you have an outbreak is send kids home. That we need kids, she sounded a lot like a college parent, quite frankly. She said, you know, all the lives got disrupted back in March when kids came home. And kids need to go to college, and they need to one, learn. They learn better in the classroom. They learn better around their peers. And two, parents need a break as well. So staying in is probably better versus most college kids. Obviously, if you look at the numbers, we've had almost 2,000 cases at USC, no hospitalizations from any students. So they're asymptomatic. That we need to keep kids here, not send them home and exacerbate, because the transmission is not occurring in the workplace, she said. She said, if you look at the numbers, they're all being transferred through social activities, whether it's family, friends. And there's a lot of truth to that, because when you go see your grandmother, your parents you haven't seen in a while, they're going to give you a hug because you're nice, and your family, you're definitely not going to get them sick intentionally, right? So it's that process of not knowing if you're asymptomatic or not is a big deal, and keeping kids on campus is important. So the takeaways, USC is doing a good job. They did have a spike. We do have to work on learned behaviors in neighborhoods and cracking down. You know, one of the issues we've had over the last week are some pushing for a curfew and some pushing for tighter restrictions on business. And this has got to be a balance. It's because we are in a downtown environment. We need businesses to grow. We need businesses to be open, not just for the university, but for everybody here. But we also, we got to be cognizant that 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids are still kids in a lot of ways, even though we expect more. I try to put myself in their shoes and what I would have done at that age, and I somewhat cringe. So, you know, there's got to be some patience, but we also have to change behaviors. And so masking is working, but if restaurants or bars are not following the rules, they need to be popped. And we've got to control this thing. So it's going to take all of us being prudent going forward. So appreciate Paul Livingston was there, Bryant, by the way, and Steve Benjamin yesterday, talking about what the county and the city are doing in their response. And so the ordinances that have been passed on minimizing house parties and all the social distancing stuff that are required is good, especially masks stuff. So anyway, good stuff there. One last bit, and I'll get off of Dr. Burks, but I thought this is important for y'all to hear as well, is when we were talking about March and April, when we thought we were in the height of this thing, and she says, you know what, we all got it wrong. This is a new phenomenon for us, and we think we know what it's going to do. We thought it was going to be over with in the summer. She said, we also thought we didn't know about asymptomatic versus symptomatic, and that most college kids are asymptomatic. She says, but at the same time, we could have a 70-year-old that's asymptomatic. And so she says, me and my team wrote the textbook on reopening the United States. She says, I can tell you every chapter, every sentence. She's like, we wrote it. She's, but we got it wrong. I mean, we just didn't know things we didn't know, and we're learning every day by this virus. And so it actually struck me, one, that you had somebody over the entire response of the country recognizing not everybody that is in leadership recognizes when they're wrong. But I appreciate her candor there, because you look back on what we've been able to do in the last 6 months and how we've had to shift. And I'm trying not to use the pivot word, but we've all had to roll with this thing as much as we can and learn from it. And so one of the things that we really, she stressed, and as I mentioned, is testing. So you, your family, your work family, we need to test more, if for no other reason to continue to build confidence in getting out and getting life back to normal. Secondly, though, it's going to help going forward in modeling and making sure that when another one of these things comes along in 50, 100 years, or in 3 years, that we're better prepared for it. So anyway, I think the business community's done a great job in at least limiting risk. And so anyway, she was complimentary of Columbia. She was very complimentary of USC. And so that bodes well for us here. Y'all read about this today, but there will be a team of a surge testing is what she called it, but a federal response unit coming to Columbia by the first of the week to really push for more testing around the university and the city of Columbia. The more that we can do, again, she said, the better. And because of the number of cases and positive cases, they're going to send a help team in to provide more testing. So look for that first part of next week. And so, but anyway, by the way, this was her second trip to Columbia in the last month. First trip was with the governor. This one was specifically for USC. And so I think there was equal learning going around from both the doctor, but also from Caslin and his team as well. Adam, anything that I missed out on that?
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. So I had the opportunity. We did, for Sound and Images, we did the first meeting before the roundtable that Carl was at, and Carl was awesome as always to listen to and contributing with that group that they had assembled. Same thing for us. I had about 24 hours notice to put together 3 back-to-back meetings. But one thing that I took, everything that we're hearing in the local press or social media or what have you, because we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, but in the first meeting before Carl's, she emphasized, and like they're in Tuscaloosa today. I mean, they're driving around in the car. She said sometimes they get to hitch a ride with Mike Pence on Air Force 2, but she drove down from DC with her team to Columbia, and then they're in Tuscaloosa. But one thing she said is that the other schools, like USC, is leaps and bounds ahead of all these other universities that they've seen, which, based on like what we've been talking about, and when I drive through 5 Points heading home or something, and I see a line of kids all the way down the street, at Jake's or something without masks, but on campus the last few days, everyone I see is masked up. And I actually also had a junior at USC shadow me yesterday. She asked if she could go along with me, and I work with her at Gamecock Village. And I said, hey, tomorrow might be pretty interesting. We're just going to have Dr. Burks and blah, blah, blah. And after the whole day, as she was in these meetings where all they're doing is talking about the college kids, it's almost like she was on the inside, She said, wow, that really makes me think. And because I asked her, I said, have you've been going to 5 Points or anything? And she said, oh, no, but she said, I won't now for sure. And another thing Dr. Burke said was that a lot of us are having these backyard barbecues and these smaller get-togethers. And she said, if you've had any get-together like this that you've been at recently, anytime, get tested where people were not masked. She said, get tested, because these little small ones are just compounding. And she mentioned that, and I haven't seen it, but there was some small wedding in Maine apparently. And she spoke about this poor little wedding in Maine. I guess there was some sort of outbreak that came out of it. And they traced it to all over the place, including one fatality, she said. And so this poor family had this small micro wedding. And again, this is all hearsay, but she said just, it was focusing on those smaller groups. And anyway, so yeah, before, during, and after Carl's meeting, it was a lot of positive things that I heard that Caslin and the university are doing, and that they've done months prior to get to this. Because she said the other schools that are shut down now, there's no way they're opening up this fall, because now they're starting to do what USC did months ago to try to be open for the spring. So everything was very encouraging that I heard directly from her. And again, I'm a fly on the wall, and just making sure that all the audio sounds good. But when I actually get to listen and focus, it was very, very encouraging. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So good insights there, and really enjoyed, again, her and appreciate her time coming down here. But more importantly, Caslin, for including the business community, because I think it's helpful to, one, for us to hear, but two, to be a part of the conversation, because it has such a dramatic impact on us. And so anyway, let's pivot a little bit from there, talk about some other things. Numbers are going down, but back to, let me close out with one thing. The reason that, for me, one of the biggest reasons that university is so significant in the conversation right now, not only because they take up a large portion of downtown, but their numbers also impact a lot of things. Their numbers impact overall Richland County, as does Department of Corrections, Juvenile Justice. Any state agency that resides in Richland County impacts our numbers. And so for schools opening up, Richland 1 and Richland 2, if we want them back open, we've got to have that's part of the conversation. Their numbers impact our kids' ability to get back to school. And I mentioned this yesterday with Dr. Burks. The biggest impediment to getting our economy back up and running is education. And the longer, parents, the numbers are the numbers, but I feel really guilty in some ways, not guilty, but I feel for the parents that have young kids. Bryant's one of them. They're trying to teach their kids as best they can to keep them in front of a computer to learn. And that's a full-time job on top of a full-time job that they're doing. And so a lot of problems out to the parents that are struggling right now. They need the help. But the sooner we can get everybody back into classrooms, I know Dr. Witherspoon and Dr. Davis are doing everything they can from a educational standpoint, but the numbers are the numbers. And so USC is vitally important. And so anyway, I'll leave it there. One other highlight from my week, and this is not I really want to share what I learned this week. I had an opportunity to have dinner with General Beagle out at Jackson. There was a small group of 8 of us around a table, and included in that was Undersecretary of the Army, McPherson, who was a JAG officer all his career, and he's I think there are a couple of undersecretaries of the Army, but he'd been here before, but came to speak at graduation on Thursday. So this was Wednesday night, and with him was General Paul Funk, who was overall training and doctrine for the Army, and he's a 4-star general. Interestingly enough, he used to work for Bob Caslin, and now he outranks Caslin. So, but Funk being a 4-star, I'd missed him on his last time, and I apologize. He goes, man, I'll be here all the time because I love this place. This is one of the best communities. How do you say it? He goes, if you can't get fired up about the U.S. Army coming to Columbia, South Carolina, you can't get it fired up anywhere. From the USO at the airport to the community to just dealing with the troops. He goes, this is a first-class operation and a great community for the Army. So just throw that out that a 4-star was very, very complimentary of all of us. And it does take a village. It's not just a single entity. It's everybody's. So kudos there. Lastly, everything else seems to be going good. We've had some good programming. I hate that I missed our economic thing yesterday. But I will catch it. It should be recorded and on our website. If it's not there now, it will be later on. I'm looking at Rose for a nod, maybe. Yes, we'll get it up and running because I really do want to see it. But the numbers from what I hear from our real estate folks are really good. And overall in South Carolina, we're up. Some communities are up 40 to 50% over what they were this time last year, month to month. Housing, the number of days on market are lower, prices are higher. So the fundamentals of the economy are really, really good. That's all that means. It means that people are moving here. It means there's workforce. So we'll monitor everything else. But if you missed that, check our website out. All in all, I think that was a good week. We got some more stuff planned next week. Check out the website and our emails, and we'll keep you followed. I hate to cut this short. But I'm going. But let me, before I do close out, anybody got any comments? I'm on an iPad, so I'm trying to see people. But if you have a comment, let me know.
Hey, Carl. This
Yes.
is John Cadena. How are you this morning?
Good morning, sir.
Good. Hey, do want to make sure that everybody takes a minute or two to remember the importance of this day.
Thank you.
9/11, 19 years ago, our lives changed. And I did see on Facebook this morning, a friend of mine put this on there that they really, while 9/11 was horrible, 9/12 was something that we'd all like to go back to. And in saying that, you know, on 9/12, we didn't care if we were black or white or a different religion or just different. We were all together. So take a little bit of time, think about what happened on 9/11 and also think about 9/12.
Valid. I was closing out on 9/11, and you got me. So I don't need to add anything to that. Anyone else need to add?
I don't know how you follow that, but September 15th, Carl, is our virtual networking session. So I think the email blast went out this morning. So love to see all of you guys there, make some connections and add value to each other's business.
Great. Listen, thanks so much for being with us. I'm gonna go sweat a little bit. We'll see y'all here next Friday. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.